I decided to make a video about these two characters because I observed how much hate Val gets, but at the same time Eddie is divinized. For first, I have to say that I love the Outlast series and both Eddie and Val are very complex and well written characters. Red Barrows did a great job with them. But I don't understand why some people keep hating on Val, but the same people are fangirling over Eddie. They enjoy seeing fan art of Waylon being tortured by Eddie or being Eddie's sex slave. This is not okay. They bring up, poor Eddie, he deserves our love, and this implies they understand his trauma and that it's not his fault because he became like that, right? No, if it was this, they wouldn't be hating on Val, because Val also had a traumatic past and she got insane because of it. I have a longer video about Val. She's my favorite character in the series, so I made a separated video where I analyze her. If you're interested, please check it out. It will be much appreciated. Back to Eddie. How can you like him and at the same time to hate Val if not for superficial reasons? Do you really understand people who got insane because of traumas and you feel bad for them? No, you just like Eddie because he's a bloody yandere. But his character is much more complex than that, and he deserves to be treated as such. This guy was raped by his father and his uncle as a child. He lost his mind and he started to mutilate men and women, hoping to make his ideal of a girl. And his ideal of a girl is his mother, like the song he was singing. Eddie wanted a woman who's like his mother because she probably wasn't abusive to him. He said he wants to be the father he never had. This abuse made him insane and desperate. He will do anything to create his ideal girl, even if that means mutilating people. He jumps from being polite, calling Waylon darling, to being violent and calling him whore because Waylon runs from him. And I think it's obvious where he got that from, not to mention his insanity. Eddie is officially a sexist and there's no excuse for that. Eddie is not guilty for what happened to him and because he lost his mind. But he has his part of fault. He's not afraid of women. He just considers that if a woman is not like his mom, she's not worth it. She's a whore, she doesn't deserve to have his baby, and that's still sexism. Like, the only woman Eddie respects is his mom. He considers this is normality, from his mental ill person perspective. Also, this guy is 46. He grew up in a society where women were only seen as housewives, baby makers, gentle and delicate creatures. He was learned that this is normality. In reality, they were disrespectful to women and everyone with a vagina because I doubt they cared about transgender people at that time. They were just reducing them to a small role in the society. And now some people reduce Eddie to being a yandere. Nice. I'm not going to justify what he did. Persons like him need access to proper treatment, not to be let to do whatever they want, and also not to be neglected or abused. Characters like Val and Eddie are not supposed to be role models. They are supposed to show you what can happen if traumas and mental illnesses are not taken seriously. That doesn't mean traumas or illnesses are an excuse to literally everything. Some people indeed have no excuse. But still every human being should be treated as a human being, not as a slave, not as a toy, not as an experiment. I'm not a psychiatrist, but we all know a lot of cases similar to Eddie and Val's cases that happen in real life. Shouldn't happen if human rights were taken seriously. Of course, we can't expect from Eddie to act like a sane person, or at least partially sane, especially because Markov Company abused him even more, and we can't support his actions. But the same thing applies to Val. It's not her fault that she was forced to kill her children. It's not her fault that she was exposed to Markov radio waves, being an experiment for those people. It's not her fault that she can't control herself anymore. And of course Val is not as much of a yandere as Eddie, and if you don't read the documents, you may think she's just a pervert and nothing more. Her story was very well written, but the essence of this character is in those documents. It would be great if you could find more about Val and her inner world by watching cutscenes instead of reading documents. I like the fact that Val is ambiguous. It makes her interesting. but I think they made her a little bit too ambiguous, considering that a lot of people are too lazy to read some documents. I read on someone's blog that the person, the sociopath who made the blog, calls Val a ridiculous, rebellious teen, atheist? What? So, someone who lost her mind because of horrible abuses and Markov experiments is ridiculous and acts like a rebellious teen according to their blog? Are you fucking mocking me? And the people who read your blog, is this one of those bad jokes? Val was forced to kill her children. This is not some irrelevant detail you can simply ignore. What if you were in her situation? I can't even describe that person's superficiality. Most of us can't even imagine the pain and suffering Val's been through, but still some dare to demonize her. Of course Eddie has his haters, and they are also very superficial, but I don't understand how is Eddie better than Val in this fandom size. Both of them did horrible things because of horrible traumas and they're not aware of directions anymore. I'm not in the position to judge any of them, but why is Val so controversial comparing to Eddie? Indeed, blood yandere characters like Eddie are interesting and very popular. Unfortunately, most of those yanderes are just annoying and nothing more. Eddie has a very well written story. He's better than the classical yandere, if you pay attention to his story. But I guess I figured it out why Val gets so much hate. The social justice warriors are offended because Red Barrels made Val LGBT. Indeed, there are theories that say Eddie is gay, but he hides it because of his traumas and the way he was raised. Like, he does not want to accept his sexual orientation. It can be possible, but there's a difference between Val and Eddie because Val is officially LGBT. The part of her being transgender is not confirmed, but she's officially bisexual. She was interested in Ruth, Lynn, Blake, Martha, so persons of different sexes, and not to mention her heretics. Somehow I think Val would actually sleep with everyone, no matter what they have down there and what they look. As long as they have a body, Val will want them. Anyway, what's up with people who get offended because some villains are LGBT? How can you make an LGBT villain? We LGBT persons are all saints. Hold the S bitch, cause I am an ain't. As an LGBT person, I have to tell you that we LGBT persons can be in many ways because we are humans and humans can be in many ways. What's next? People getting offended over villains who are from a specific country or race? People getting offended because villains do human things? People claim the character of Val spreads this stereotype about trans women being rapists. But there's also a stereotype about men being rapists, and Traeger, Andrew, and Not, and Lautermilch are rapists. I'm a man, and I didn't get offended. And nobody said a thing about spreading this stereotype about men, because of course they see only Val. In reality, anyone can do bad things. Red Barrels made male villains, female villains, LGBT and non-LGBT villains. That sounds like equality to me. Also, people should stop comparing Val to Eddie. They both have delusional views of love because of traumas, but they're very different. Val is not supposed to be a female version of Eddie. Val is a separated character with her own story. Maybe she's not that type of popular bloody yandere like Eddie. She's a yandere too, but she's not eager to express her emotions as much as Eddie does. Val's character is more mysterious and complicated. Eddie's story was pretty much explained in the game. You can understand easier what happened to him, so you don't have to use your brain that much. Val's story was more complex and you had to make a connection between the documents and the cutscenes to understand her behavior. At the first glance, you may think Val is a cold person for not expressing any emotion except lust in an obvious way, but she is actually trying to hide her emotions because of her traumas. The conclusion is, both Eddie and Val went through traumas and they were used as experiments to Markov Company, and that's why they are how they are now. We can't support their actions, but at the same time, we have to understand they didn't choose this fate, and they don't have reality awareness or self-control anymore. In Eddie's case, it's the fault of his father and uncle. In Val's case, it's Not's fault. and both of their cases were worsened because of those people from Murkoff. For example, Jeremy and Traeger have no excuses for their actions. They are cruel and they only care about themselves and their own money. Traeger is indeed insane, but if you read the Murkoff account comics, you know he was an asshole even before losing his mind.